You know that your unit goal is how can I demonstrate what I know about fractions and decimals by reasoning about their value? Well, today what we're going to focus on is writing a pair of fractions as fractions with common denominators. So you're going to see the word common denominators being used throughout this lesson. Before I begin, you need to make sure that you have the worksheet that you need to take notes for this problem, for this lesson. It should have 6.4 written on it, and you should be ready to go with a pencil as well. So here's our question. What do we do when fractions have different denominators and we want to compare them or combine them? So here's an example of when we might have this problem. Martin has two cakes that are the same size. One cake is cut into half-size pieces. Somebody's hungry for some cake. The other cake is cut into 1/3 size pieces. He wants to cut the cake so that they have the same size pieces. How can he cut each cake? Well, let's take a look at a drawing. And again, you should have your worksheet in front of you. In the first box, I want you to draw a model of a cake divided into two pieces or half. So you might quickly draw a square, half. This is the piece that is cut into half-size pieces. Now in the next box, draw a cake that is divided into thirds or 3 equal pieces. Try to draw the same size square that you drew in the first box, and now we're going to divide it into thirds. This would be the second cake. Now look what happens when I change them. So I've got my square here and here. Again, I'm trying really hard to make them about the same size. I have this one drawn into half and this one drawn into thirds. Now when you see the pencil here, you're changing your drawing with me to see what those shapes might look like. I know that if I count by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8. I count by threes, 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm looking to find a multiple that is the same. I could cut them into sixes. So that means if I drew a line here, now I have 6 pieces in my thirds. Use a highlighter or a marker to draw your thirds into sixes. Now to draw my halves into thirds, I'm going to draw, oops, that's not very equal. And now I have 6 pieces. So for each cake, I now have 6 equal size pieces. So nobody at my party is going to be pointing at who's got the bigger piece. I was able to divide them the same. Now on your notes, you're going to be looking at what a common denominator is. A common denominator is a common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. So I want you to think back. When I drew the cake as halves and thirds, I checked out those multiples in order to be able to find that 6 was a common multiple and therefore could be a common denominator of 2 and 3. Let's practice finding common denominators. The first step is to find common multiples of a common denominator. So we're going to list those just like I did in that other problem. Here, if we're looking at 4/5 and 1/2, I'm going to find multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. I'm going to list some multiples of 2. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now, when I look at my problem, I'm going to look for a common multiple. 5 won't work. 10, Shazam, I have 10. I have 10. So now I've got a common multiple and I can write equivalent fractions. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy once I figure it out. I know that whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do to the denominator. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 2 equals 10. So I have to multiply 4 times 2 as well to get 8. 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10. I know that 2 times 5 is 10. Whatever I do to the numerator or the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So I'm going to multiply that by 5 as well. 5/10 is equivalent to 1/2. But bada bing, bada boom, baby, now I have my 2 sets of fractions with a common denominator. Now we can always use pictures to help, just like I did when I was making those cakes. I'm getting hungry for cake. Find a common denominator for 1/3 and 1/12 by dividing each whole into the same number of equal parts. Now you see this pencil, my friend, so that means that you have this picture on your worksheet. I'd like you to take a moment to give it a try. I'm going to start off by listing some multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12. Hey, wait a minute. 12? 12! I can just cut this bad boy like this to get 12s. So now I can see that I've got 4 12ths here, 1 12th here, and my common denominator, 12. Again, you see the pencil. Let's do this one together without pausing the video, just to get a little bit of practice before we do some on our own. The directions will always say, write the pair of fractions as a pair of fractions with a common denominator. I'm going to list multiples. I got 2. I got 4. I got 4. Wait a minute, this is a 4. So I can keep 1/4. And I'm going to change this one into 4s. 4 times 2 is 4. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2/4 and 1/4. Let's look at this next one as I think of a pair of fractions, and I'm going to make them with a common denominator. Pause the video and try it on your own first. Let's see what you tried. I'm going to list multiples of 4. I got 4. I got 8. Wait a minute, 8! 8! So that means I can leave this one as 5/8. And I'm going to change this one to 8s. I know that 4 times 2 is 8. And 3 times 2 is 6. Now I have 2 sets of fractions with a common denominator. Here's our last one to try together. 1/3 and 3/4. And my friend, this kid ain't looking confused for no reason. So you may have to list some multiples for both of those denominators. Pause the video while you give it a try on your own. Well, let's see how you did. So I've got 3, I've got 6, I got 9, I got 12, I've got 15. I've got 4, I've got 8, I've got 12, I've got 16. Wait for it. 12. I'm going to turn them both into 12ths. I know that 3 times 4 is 12. So 1 times 4 is 4. I know that 4 times 3 is 12. So 1 times 3 is 3. And there I have my 2 sets of fractions with a common denominator. Now you need to check your work. We worked on a few together, and we want to show what you know to work on that learning goal. So please make sure you log in to the check for lesson 6.4 and do your best. That means find those multiples. Pump those math brains. Don't just make a guess because you're better than that. We want to see what you know. We want you to be stronger than, well, maybe stronger than my friend here. Anyway, do your best and show your teacher what you're made of.